The chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with a cold quiet that felt heavier than metal. Every species with a seat had gathered for what was called an emergency session, though everyone already knew who had been called to answer. The long rows of floating platforms circled around a bright central stage, and the space felt more like a judgment hall than a council room. When the human ambassador stepped into the center, it felt as if every eye in the galaxy focused on her at once. Ambassador Leora Kent walked with steady steps, but inside her chest her heart was tight with dread. She could feel the pressure of 1,000 whispered arguments that had taken place before she entered. Humanity had not been invited to those private talks, and she feared that meant the outcome had already been decided. Still, she stood tall. The humans had always believed in facing danger head-on. The council members watched her closely. Some eyes looked curious, some suspicious, and many held open hostility. For years, humans had been the newcomers to the galaxy. They had risen quickly in technology, faster than anyone expected, and many species saw them as unpredictable. Some feared them. Some envied them. Some simply wanted them removed before they became strong enough to matter. A tall creature with deep red scales, a member of the Drav Combine, floated forward to address the chamber. His voice echoed smoothly, too smooth for Leora's comfort. He spoke of energy surges in distant star systems, unexplained disturbances, and strange signatures that loosely matched human engines. Every statement was thin, stretched, and twisted into something dark. Leora had heard the rumors, but seeing how boldly the Drav were using them was different. This was not an accusation. It was a trap. When her turn came, Leora stepped toward the voice amplifiers. She spoke clearly, simply, with no dramatic flourish. She explained that Earth had nothing to do with the disturbances, that humanity had been busy with internal development projects and had not sent any deep-range fleets for more than 2 years. She shared scans and logs, all verified by neutral mediators. She reminded them that humans had signed every treaty and kept every promise, even the difficult ones. Some listened. Some pretended to listen. Others looked away as if her words were an annoyance. The Drav representative spoke again, this time with an air of cold victory. He pushed for a vote. Not for an investigation. Not for dialogue. A vote to label Earth as a Class 5 proto-threat, the same level reserved for civilizations on the edge of violent expansion. Such species were often isolated, sometimes even blocked from traveling beyond their own system. It was the harshest label given before open conflict. Leora felt her stomach twist. A vote meant they had already decided. She wanted to protest, to demand a full review, but she could tell the chamber had lost interest in fairness. The voting lights appeared above every platform. The chamber hummed with quiet tension. One by one, crystals glowed, green for support, red for opposition, white for abstention. Leora watched helplessly as red light after red light illuminated the room. A few species hesitated, but the pressure to obey the majority was strong. The Drav had spent years building influence here, and their reach was longer than most realized. Leora felt something deep inside her shrink when the final tally appeared. The vote had passed. Earth was officially labeled a threat. The humans, who had worked so hard to prove themselves peaceful members of the galactic community, were now pushed toward the edge of the map, marked by fear and suspicion. She stood there in the center of the chamber, the lights dimming around her, and tried to keep her expression calm. Even as the world she represented was judged unfairly, she refused to show the shame or fear her enemies wanted to see. What she did show, however, was a quiet anger. It was a small fire behind her eyes, and the Drav ambassador noticed it. He smiled slightly, the kind of smile that said he believed he had won. But Leora's anger was not wild or desperate. It was controlled, focused. It was the kind of anger that humans were known for when, pushed too far. As the council session ended, members began to drift away in clusters, whispering among themselves. Some looked bothered by the outcome, but not enough to challenge it. Others seemed relieved, believing the verdict would keep the galaxy safe. Only a few looked truly uneasy, as if they sensed something deeper at play. Leora exited the chamber, through a narrow corridor filled with holographic patterns of the galaxy. Her assistant, a younger diplomat named Yalin, hurried after her. He looked shaken, his hands trembling slightly. "We can appeal," he said in a low voice, though he clearly did not believe it. "We can," Leora replied softly, "but they will not listen. Not now, not after that display." "They planned this," Yalin said. "The Drav—" "Yes," she cut in, and the council let them. They walked in silence for a moment. The corridors around them were filled with representatives returning to their ships, some glancing at the humans with open suspicion. Others avoided their eyes. A few offered small nods of sympathy, but those gestures meant little now. When Leora reached the docking platform where her ship waited, she stopped to take one last look at the massive council station. It floated in the void like a shining monument of order and diplomacy, but she now saw the cracks beneath its elegant surface. This place was not the center of justice she once believed. It was a nest of politics, alliances, and quiet corruption. She boarded her ship with a heavy heart. The moment the doors sealed shut, she allowed herself a long, slow breath. She walked to the command table, where holoscreens displayed Earth's responses to the Council's decisions. Messages were already arriving from world leaders. Some were filled with disbelief, others with outrage. The ship's engines hummed to life as it prepared to break away from the station. Leora watched through the viewport as the Council's lights faded into the distance. She knew Earth would not take this lightly. Humans were peaceful, yes, but they were not weak. And they were not blind. Yalin approached again, more composed now. "What do we tell Earth?" he asked. Leora considered her words carefully before speaking. "Tell them the truth," she said quietly. "Tell them the Council has turned against us. Tell them we are alone now. And tell them to be ready." The message would reach Earth within minutes. Leaders would gather. Scientists would dig through old emergency plans. Military advisors would argue and debate. Citizens would worry. Some would panic. Others would harden their resolve. Humanity had always survived by adapting. They had endured wars, disasters, and the long struggle to reach the stars. They would endure this too, but the galaxy had just forced them onto a dangerous path. As the ship entered faster-than-light travel, Leora sat alone in her quarters. The dim lights cast soft shadows on the metal walls. She replayed the vote in her mind again and again. She knew two things with absolute certainty. First, Earth was now marked. Second, the Galactic Council had no idea what they had just begun. In the silent dark of space, Leora made a quiet promise. If the Council wanted to treat humanity as a threat, then they would soon learn what humans were truly capable of, both in strength and in unity. And when the truth finally reached them, when they understood how deeply they had misjudged her people, it would be too late to undo the vote that sealed their fate. The message from Ambassador. Leora reached Earth at sunrise over the Pacific, when most of the world was only beginning to wake. The words she sent were simple, but they shook every leader who read them. The Galactic Council had voted. Earth was now labeled a threat, and the Council was preparing to act on that decision. Commander Ray Halden read the message twice. She sat alone in the briefing chamber of the Global Defense Network, her fingers curled around the edge of the table. Her first feeling was disbelief, but it was quickly replaced by something sharper, anger. Not the kind that made her want to shout or strike the table, but the deeper anger that came from betrayal. Earth had joined the Council with trust. They had shared knowledge, offered aid, obeyed every treaty. They had played by the rules, and yet the galaxy had chosen to paint them as something dangerous. Ray stood, pushed away from the table, and moved toward the giant window. The view showed the long curve of Earth's surface, bright and peaceful. It was a world full of people going to work, children waking for school, families planning their day. None of them knew what was coming. A soft tone announced the arrival of her second-in-command. Captain Idris Vale stepped inside, holding a tablet filled with the latest reports. He looked tired, as if he had not slept at all. "You read the ambassador's message?" he said. "Yes," Ray replied. He hesitated. "The Council ships are moving. Long-range scans show fleet activity near 3 border systems. If they vote to isolate us, They may use force to make sure we stay in our system. Ray closed her eyes for a moment. They think we'll accept that quietly. Do we have a choice? Idris asked in a low voice. Ray turned to him with steady eyes. We always have a choice. Humans didn't reach the stars by kneeling. Idris said nothing more. He didn't need to. They both knew what had to happen next. Within hours, the United Earth Council gathered. Representatives from every nation connected through a massive holonetwork. The room buzzed with shock, confusion, and fear. Some asked how this could happen. Others demanded evidence. A few already argued about who to blame. But the moment the meeting began, Ray stepped forward with calm authority. She explained the vote, the accusations, and the behavior of the Drav Combine. She showed Leora's message to everyone. The silence that followed was heavy. Then she spoke 4 words that changed the course of the meeting. We activate Project Hephaestus. The room exploded with voices. Some shouted in support. Some protested. Others pleaded for caution. But Ray stood her ground. When the noise finally faded, she explained the truth. For years, Earth had worked on a project that was kept hidden even from most officials. A plan created not for war, but for survival. A plan built on the most advanced technology humanity had ever discovered, controlled singularity engineering. It was strange and dangerous, but it allowed humans to do things no other species had done. With it, they had designed a system called the Aegis Net, a defense lattice that could protect Earth from almost any attack. It had never been activated before. It was unfinished in some places, but it was ready enough. When Ray finished speaking, the room was quiet again. Then slowly, one representative after another agreed. Earth had no allies now. They could not rely on the Council. They had to rely on themselves. The vote passed. Project Hephaestus was activated. Across the planet, thousands of engineers, scientists, and workers rushed into secured facilities. Massive underground hangars opened. Energy reactors that had been idle for years hummed back to life. Teams pulled out blueprints and codes they thought they would never use. In orbit, construction drones swarmed like silver insects. They attached gravitic modules to satellites. They deployed large metallic frames that connected to one another with invisible energy threads. The Aegis Net began to form around Earth like a glowing shell. Some parts flickered. Others pulsed with strange gravitational waves. It was imperfect, but it was powerful. On the far side of Earth's moon, a listening post picked up the first worrying signs. A council fleet was gathering near the border of human space. They were moving slowly now, keeping their distance, but the pattern was clear. They were preparing for something large. The chief analyst, Mara Yates, stared at the data in disbelief. They're not waiting for negotiations. They're preparing a strike. Her voice trembled as she sent the report to Commander Ray. When Ray received it, she simply nodded. So they chose force? Idris, standing beside her, took a deep breath. What do we do now? We finish the net, Ray said, and we make sure Earth is not caught helpless. The following days were filled with a kind of silent chaos. News channels revealed part of the truth to the public, and shockwaves went through every city on Earth. Some people panicked. Others volunteered to help. Scientists worked day and night. Soldiers prepared evacuation plans, defensive strategies, and emergency shelters, but even in fear, something remarkable happened. Humanity united. Old borders, old arguments, old political rivalries, all of them felt small now. People understood that the threat came from beyond Earth, from those who did not trust humans, from those who misunderstood them or envied their progress. In a quiet research station in Nevada, Dr. Elaine Ward, the lead physicist behind Hephaestus, stood before a massive monitor displaying the growing structure of the Aegis Net. She had designed the gravitic anchors, systems capable of bending space around Earth like a shield. As she watched the network brighten with each new connection, she whispered to herself, we might actually do it. Her assistant, a young engineer named Tara Malik, approached with a tablet. We've stabilized 3 more nodes. Only 14 left. Elaine nodded, but her expression stayed serious. The net is strong, Taran, but the Council won't wait forever. We need to be ready before they are. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, a construction vessel drifted near one of the central modules. The crew worked in silence, hands moving quickly as they adjusted the final components. Outside their window, the curve of the planet glowed blue and white, framed by the shimmering arcs of the Aegis net. The captain of the vessel, Jonas Reed, tightened one final bolt and stepped back. "This is the last piece for our sector," he said. His partner smiled tiredly. "Let's hope it's enough." "It has to be," Jonas replied. On the ground, Ray walked through the command center, studying every report that came in. She barely slept, barely ate. When she finally paused to rest her eyes for a moment, Idris brought her a small cup of coffee. "You need to take care of yourself," he said softly. She gave him a tired smile. "I will when the council decides to stop treating us like monsters. That might take a while," he replied. "Then I guess I won't be resting soon," she said. Idris almost laughed. But there was no real humor in it. On the third day after the vote, the Galactic listening post detected a new signal. A coded transmission from a council scout ship. It was brief but clear. "Human anomaly confirmed. Fleet mobilizing." The message reached Earth, and Ray felt a cold heaviness settle in her chest. The council still did not understand. They believed humans were hiding weapons. They believed the energy anomalies were evidence of aggression. They never considered that Earth was simply advancing faster than expected. They would not listen. "Not now," Ray looked at Idris. "Prepare the final phase. We bring the Aegis net online tonight." He nodded and rushed to carry out the order. When night fell over Earth, the sky lit with faint arcs of shimmering energy. People across the planet stepped out of their homes, looking upward with wonder and fear. The Aegis net activated in a slow wave, each node glowing like a distant star. In low orbit, a pulse of gravity rippled outward. Not a weapon, not an attack, just a shield that wrapped around the planet like a protective cocoon. For a moment, Earth looked like a world of light. Inside the command center, scientists cheered. Engineers hugged one another. Soldiers allowed themselves small smiles of relief. Ray simply exhaled. "It works," she whispered, but the relief lasted only minutes. A new alert blared. The council fleet was on the move. Larger than before. Faster than expected. They were coming. Idris looked at the scans with wide eyes. "They're not giving us time." Ree stared at the screen. Her voice was steady. "Then we will meet them. And we will show them who we really are." The command center became a storm of activity once more. Everyone moved quickly. Orders were given and followed without hesitation. Far above Earth, the stars shifted as the enemy fleet approached, and humanity, united for the first time in generations, prepared to stand their ground. The galaxy had turned against them, but the galaxy had no idea what humans could do. When they were pushed too far, the council fleet moved through space like a dark tide. Dozens of massive ships slipping out of warp with cold precision. Each vessel carried weapons capable of burning cities or cracking moons. The commanders believed this mission would be simple. They thought humanity would be scared, unprepared, and unable to defend itself. After all, Earth was young, inexperienced, and far from the technological level of the older species, but they were wrong. At the same time the fleet approached. Earth rotated slowly beneath the glow of the Aegis net. The shimmering shield bent starlight in strange ways, making the night sky ripple like water. People across the globe watched it, unsure whether to feel safe or terrified. It was beautiful, but it meant danger was close. In the command center, Commander Ray Halden stood over the main display. Lines of data scrolled beside a hologram of the incoming fleet. Idris Vale, her second-in-command, rushed to her side. "They crossed the last border beacon," he said quietly. "Time to contact. 16 minutes. Ree nodded, her face calm but her jaw tight. "Signal all defense stations. Everyone to their positions." Teams across Earth responded instantly. Pilots climbed into sleek fighters. Engineers ran final checks on the gravitic anchors. Communications officers opened secure channels. Even civilians in emergency shelters waited in tense silence, reactivated the main channel and spoke. A single sentence: stay ready and stay steady. Up in orbit, the Aegis net pulsed with energy. The Council fleet slowed as it neared Earth. The flagship, a massive vessel shaped like a crescent blade, broadcast a message. A voice echoed across open frequencies. Humans of Earth, stand down and prepare for inspection. You have been declared a proto-threat. Compliance is mandatory. The voice was cold, confident, certain of victory. Ray answered, her voice simple and steady. Earth will not surrender, but we will not attack unless attacked. Leave now, and we avoid conflict. There was a pause. Then laughter filled the channel, cruel, mocking. You think your primitive defenses matter? You think your world can stand against us? Ray cut the connection. Idris, she said, bring shields to full power. The Aegis net brightened like a second sunrise. The first shot came from a Council destroyer. A massive beam of blue energy cut through the darkness, aimed directly at Earth. Billions of people on the planet held their breath. The beam struck the Aegis net and bent away like a stream of water hitting a wall. Gasps filled control rooms across Earth. Some people cried. Some laughed. Others simply stared. On the Council flagship, confusion spread. What happened? Why did the beam curve? Are they manipulating space? The Drav commander on board snarled in disbelief. Fire again. All ships. A storm of beams, plasma bolts, and missiles flew toward Earth. They struck the shield from every angle. Explosions lit the void. The glow of the Aegis net flickered but held firm. Inside the command center, Idris let out a shaky breath. It's working. It's actually working. Ree didn't smile. They'll try something else soon. Keep monitoring stress points. Far above Earth, the Council fleet changed formations. Several ships launched drones, small, fast, needle-shaped machines designed to slip through shields. They moved like a swarm of angry insects. The Aegis net detected them instantly. Gravitic lines twisted, and the drones were pulled off course. Some were flung into empty space. Others spun uncontrollably until they self-destructed. The Council commander stared in shock. Human technology should not have been able to counter drones that even advanced species feared, one officer whispered. This isn't possible. They were supposed to be primitive? But the Drav commander refused to believe it. Prepare the heavy cannons? He wanted to break Earth's shield no matter the cost. Back on Earth, Dr. Elaine Ward watched everything from the Hephaestus control room. Her fingers flew across the console as she adjusted gravitic flows. They're pushing the net harder than expected, she said. Taran Malik beside her swallowed nervously. Can the net hold? Elaine nodded slowly. It can. But if they switch to high-frequency pulses, we'll need to reinforce the lower layers. Taran hesitated. Should we warn the commander? Elaine gave a short smile. She already knows. On the flagship, energy built within the heavy cannon. The weapon glowed with a dangerous white heat. When it fired, space itself seemed to shiver. The beam hit the Aegis net and rippled across it like lightning on water. The shield dimmed, then brightened. For a moment, part of it wavered. On Earth, alarms blared. Idris shouted, "We're losing integrity in Sector 12." Ree responded instantly. Shift power from the eastern anchors. Reinforce the curve. On it? Engineers called. Elaine and Tehran redirected energy, working with frantic precision. The net strengthened just as another heavy beam struck. This time the shield held steady. A murmur filled the command center. Hope, real, strong hope. Ray watched the display. They can keep firing, she said. But they cannot break us. The Council fleet began to hesitate. They had expected victory within minutes. Instead, they were losing resources, wasting fuel, and achieving nothing. Several captains opened private channels. Why were we told humans were weak? Their technology is advancing too fast. Should we retreat? The Drav commander listened with growing anger. His planned show of dominance was turning into an embarrassment. Prepare the boarding teams, he snapped. If we cannot break the shield, we will infiltrate it. His officers stared in shock. Sir, that is not permitted. The Council forbids direct invasion without unanimous approval. We have indirect approval, he hissed. They voted Earth a threat. That is enough. The boarding pods launched dark metal spheres aimed at weak points in the net. Ray saw them instantly. Interception team, she ordered. Launch the Helios fighters. Dozens of human fighters burst from hidden hangars across the planet. They flew through small openings in the net that sealed behind them. Their engines left trails of blue light. At their lead, Captain Aaron Wolf guided his ship with sharp, precise movements. Pods incoming, he said. 30 units. Fast and armored. Ray's voice came through the com. Disable, don't destroy. We don't escalate unless we must. Aaron smirked. Understood. The fighters soared toward the pods. They fired gravitic disruptors, new weapons that didn't explode but pushed. The pods shook violently, their trajectories thrown off. Some spun out of control. Others cracked under the pressure. Only a few reached the net and bounced off harmlessly. The Council commanders were speechless. The Drav commander slammed a fist against the console. This is impossible. Humans should not have these capabilities. A calm voice from one of the Allied ships replied, Commander, we must consider that the Council may have acted too quickly. You dare question, but the officer cut the channel before he finished. In the Council chamber far away, alarms began flashing. The live combat feed showed an embarrassing truth. Earth was defending itself successfully and doing so without firing a single lethal shot. Meanwhile, on Earth, the battle reached a strange calm. The Council fleet held position, unsure what to do next. In the command center, Idris whispered, They're confused. Maybe even scared. Ree nodded. Send them a message? When the channel opened, she spoke with clear, calm authority. We have defended ourselves without attacking you. We wish peace, not war. But we will not bow. Leave Earth's orbit? You have nothing to gain here. The message spread across the fleet. Some captains lowered their weapons. Others shut down targeting systems. The Drav commander, seeing his power slipping, shouted orders. But fewer and fewer obeyed. Finally, one ship pulled back, then another. Then 10, within minutes. Half the fleet began to retreat. The flagship stayed for a long moment, refusing to accept what was happening. But even it eventually turned away, engines burning with frustration. On Earth, a cheer rose across the planet. In the command center, Idris let out a breath he had been holding for minutes. We did it. Ree watched the fleet disappear into the darkness. We survived the first strike, she said softly, but she knew the Council's retreat was not the end. It was only the beginning. Humanity had just shown the galaxy something no one expected, and now every species would be forced to reconsider what Earth truly was, not a threat, not a victim, but something powerful. Something united, something that would not bow to fear. The retreat of the Council fleet brought a wave of relief across Earth, but the calm that followed was thin and fragile. People celebrated in the streets, hugged strangers, and stared at the glowing Aegis net with pride and wonder. News networks called it a miracle. Social media filled with messages praising the unity of humanity. For the first time in a long time, the world felt truly connected, but Commander Ray Halden knew the danger was far from gone. In the command center, she stood before the main screen, watching live feeds from deep space scanners. Idris Vale joined her with a tablet in his hands, his expression tense. Any new movement? Ray asked without turning. Our eyes hesitated. Some, not from the whole fleet, but from one part of it. Ray's eyes narrowed. Let me guess. The Drav. Idris nodded. Their ships didn't retreat. They split off and moved to the far side of the system. We lost them for about 2 hours. When they reappeared, they were regrouping. Ree closed her eyes for a brief moment. So they're preparing for a second strike. Most likely, Idris said. And this time, they're not waiting for permission from the rest of the Council. The Drav Combine had been the strongest voice pushing for Earth to be labeled a threat. They were powerful, proud, and eager to rise above the other species. The failure of their first attack had embarrassed them deeply. Ree knew how dangerous that combination was. They'll try something desperate, she said quietly. Ice placed the tablet on the console, showing footage of the Drav ships. Their weapons are charging? Heavy cannons, pulse disruptors, and something else. Something we haven't seen before. Ree leaned closer. The strange energy signature pulsed in uneven waves. It was unstable, unpredictable. Taran and Dr. Ward need to see this, she said. Now, Idris sent the data immediately. Far beneath the mountains of Nevada. In the Hephaestus control room, Dr. Elaine Ward studied the readings with a deep frown. Tara Malik hovered close by, anxiety clear on his face. They're powering something experimental, Elaine said. This isn't standard Drav tech. It looks like a compressed singularity wave. Dangerous, very dangerous. Taran bit his lip. Can it break the Aegis net? Elaine didn't answer right away. She adjusted the scanning parameters, ran a simulation, and watched the results appear. Her shoulders tightened. If they fire it fully charged, it might destabilize 2 sectors of the net, not break it entirely, but weaken it enough for a focused attack. So what do we do? Taran asked. Elaine took a deep breath. We prepare a countermeasure. And we do it fast. While Earth worked urgently, the Drav commander paced across the flagship bridge. His scaled armor glimmered in the dim red lighting. Humans made us retreat, he hissed. They humiliated us. Our allies laughed behind our backs. One of his officers tried to speak calmly. Commander, perhaps we should wait for council approval. The commander's eyes flashed with fury. No, if the council wants weakness, let them tremble in their seats. We will strike alone. We will show the galaxy that the Drav do not bow, even to impossible technology. The officer swallowed his nerves. The cannon will be ready in 20 minutes. Good, the commander said. When it fires, Earth will understand that resistance is pointless. Back on Earth, Ray gathered her top commanders and scientists on a secure channel. The room buzzed with tension. Elaine appeared on the screen, dark circles under her eyes. We have a solution, she said. But it's experimental. Just like their weapon. Explain, Ray said. We can use the Aegis net to create a singularity anchor, a temporary distortion point. If done correctly, it will absorb the energy of their cannon. Idris frowned. And if done incorrectly? It could collapse part of the net, Elaine admitted. Or tear a hole in the shield large enough for their entire fleet to pass through. Ree looked around the room. Every face reflected fear and determination. It's our best option. Prepare the anchor. The final preparations began. In orbit, the Aegis net shifted its glow. Hundreds of interconnected nodes redirected power. Lines of gravity bent and twisted in. Strange spirals, creating a pocket of distorted space. Below. Humanity watched the sky in silence. On the Drav flagship, the commander raised his hand. Fire the singularity cannon. A bright pulse erupted from the shiposphere of violent, unstable energy. It tore through space, leaving a ripple behind it. The pulse moved fast, too fast for human eyes, but the Aegis net was ready. The singularity anchor caught the pulse. For a moment, the entire sky over Earth flashed white. The net shook, flickering dangerously, its lines bending as if under great weight. In the control room, warnings blared. Integrity dropping in sectors 6, 9, and 10. Anchor is destabilizing. We need more power, Elaine shouted over the noise. Shift the lower bands. Reinforce the curve now. Taran's hands flew across the console. Redirecting energy. In orbit, the Aegis net pulsed violently, but held. The singularity pulse was swallowed. Earth remained untouched. In the command center. Silence filled the room for 3 long seconds, then cheers erupted. People hugged, cried, laughed. Ray allowed herself a small smile of relief. But the Drav commander was not finished. He slammed his fist on the console. They blocked it. Twice humans defied us. Prepare the second cannon shot, and charge the boarding destroyers as well. Another officer hesitated. Commander, we are losing support. Half our fleet refused to launch. They say the humans only defended. They say we are acting without justification, the commander snarled. Then those cowards can leave. We do not need them. The officer looked down. Most of them have left already, the commander froze. What? A new scan appeared. Only a handful of Drav ships remained. Meanwhile, on the council world far away, arguments exploded across the chamber. They attacked without approval. They are endangering us all. Humanity defended themselves without firing a lethal shot. Leora Kent stood in the center of the chaos. Her voice cut through the noise. This is the result of your rushed vote, she said. You allowed the Drav to twist your fears, and now you see the truth. Earth did nothing wrong. The Drav did everything wrong. Some council members looked ashamed. Others angry. A few still resisted, but their voices were shrinking. Back in Earth's orbit, the Drav commander prepared his final attack on Earth. Ree watched the remaining ships charge their weapons. They're coming again, Idris said. Ree nodded. Then this time we stop them completely. Activate the singularity anchors, the Aegis net shifted. Multiple anchors formed glowing points of warped gravity. The Drava. Ships fired. The beams bent. The missiles drifted off course. 2 ships were caught in the anchors and froze in place, unable to move. The humans did not attack. They didn't fire a single weapon. They simply disabled the attackers. The Drav commander stared at the screen, his expression collapsing into horror. We lost. For the first time, he understood the truth. Earth hadn't defeated them through firepower. Earth had defeated them through control, intelligence, and restraint. His bridge officers stepped back, avoiding his gaze. We must retreat, one whispered. But there was no fleet left to command. The second strike had failed. And this time, the galaxy had watched. On Earth, Ray finally sat down, her hands trembling slightly. Idris placed a hand on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. Ray shook her head. No, humanity did, together. Far away in the council chamber, for the first time since the crisis began, worlds that once doubted humans now spoke in their defense. The galaxy had underestimated Earth. And now, everyone knew it. The Drav Combine had just made the biggest mistake in their history. And Earth had shown the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of when united. Silence settled over the galaxy after the second failed attack. The Drav ships that survived drifted away, broken in formation and in spirit. Their commander no longer barked orders. He stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by officers who no longer believed in him. The weight of defeat pressed on him harder than any weapon. Earth, however, was not celebrating yet. Commander Ray Halden knew the danger had not passed entirely. She stood in the command center with Idris Vale at her side. Watching the Aegis net stabilize after the heavy strain. Idris took a slow breath. We've never pushed the system this far. If they had tried a third strike, Ray nodded. But they didn't. Still, Idris said, we need to prepare for what comes next. Not another attack maybe, but the council. They'll have questions, and fear does not disappear in a day. Ree stared at the screen where the last Drav ship vanished into the dark. No, she said softly. It doesn't. News spread quickly. In city streets, people gathered again, but this time their cheers were quieter, mixed with relief and exhaustion. Families hugged each other tightly. People looked at the sky not with fear, but with gratitude. In the Hephaestus lab, Dr. Elaine Ward leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling slightly as the final data stream stabilized. We held, she whispered. Taran Malik sat beside her, rubbing his tired eyes. We did more than hold. We showed them the truth. Elaine smiled faintly. Let's hope the Council sees it that way. Across the galaxy on the Council homeworld, chaos ruled the chamber again, but this time fear wasn't directed at Earth, it was directed at the Drav Combine. They acted without approval, a council member shouted. They endangered us all. Another added, they ignored the vote. Leora Kent stood tall at the center of the floor. Her voice remained calm, even as the room shook with anger and confusion. You see now what humans were trying to warn you about, she said. Earth did not attack. Earth did not threaten. Earth defended itself with restraint. The Drav acted out of pride and fear, not logic. Some council members nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. One elder member, usually silent, finally spoke. We were wrong. We allowed panic to guide us. The vote we cast, we must correct it. A murmur spread across the chamber. Leora continued, "The galaxy needs unity now, not fear. Earth has proven they can defend themselves. They have proven responsibility. It is time to recognize their place here." The council began to settle. Diplomats leaned in close, whispering among themselves. Far away, Ray received a secure call from Leora. "Commander Halden," Leora said, her tone gentle but tired. "The council has called for a full review of the vote. Many members want to reverse it." Ray exchanged a look with Idris before answering, "That's good news." "But it doesn't erase what happened." "No," Leora admitted. "It doesn't, but it might prevent worse things in the future." Ray nodded slowly. "What do you need from us?" "Come to the council world," Leora said. "All of you who led the defense. They need to see your faces, to understand who you are." Idris frowned. "That won't be easy. Some members still fear humans." Leora gave a tired smile. "That's why you must come." 3 days later, an Earth delegation stepped onto the council world. Ray, Idris, Elaine, Taran, and several diplomats walked through the large halls filled with alien delegates. Eyes followed them, full of curiosity and hesitation, but not hostility. Inside the grand chamber, the council assembled. The large circular hall felt impossibly vast. With hundreds of alien leaders seated around the edges, Ray stepped forward as Leora introduced her. "This is Commander Ray Halden," Leora said. She led Earth's defense with restraint and intelligence. Murmurs spread. One council member, tall and insect-like, raised a limb. "Why did you not attack the dropships when you had the advantage?" Ray answered simply, "Because we were defending, not conquering. Destroying them would have made us the threat you feared." Another member asked, "Your Aegis net could have crushed their fleet. Why create anchors instead of weapons?" Elaine stepped forward. "Because control is safer than power? And because we do not want a war." Taran added quietly, "We only wanted to live." The hall fell silent. At last, the council elder spoke. "We made a mistake. The vote against Earth was a decision made in fear. But now we have seen the truth." He turned to the assembly. "We will vote again." The tension in the room was sharp. Rhea felt her hands tighten at her sides. The vote was cast, and then, moments later, the results appeared. The council reversed the decision. Earth was no longer labeled a threat. The chamber erupted into mixed reactions, relief from many, frustration from a few, but overall a sense of balance returning. "But something else happened too." The elder continued. "And furthermore, we will open a new seat on the council, for Earth." Every human in the hall froze. Ray stared in disbelief. Idris's mouth fell open. Elaine covered her lips with her hand. Taran blinked rapidly, unsure if he heard correctly. Leora smiled at them. "Welcome to the galaxy." Back on the Drav flagship, the commander received the news in silence. His officers watched him carefully. "They gave Earth a seat?" he whispered. "Yes," an officer said quietly. "And the council has condemned our actions. The Combine leadership has recalled us for judgment." The commander's scales dulled as the truth settled in. His ambition had destroyed their influence, not Earth's. Meanwhile, Earth celebrated not with loud cheers, but with a calm, deep sense of pride. Humanity had not only survived, but earned respect. When Ray returned home, she stood on a balcony in New Seattle, watching the lights of the city flicker. Idris joined her. "So, Earth is on the council now." Ray gave a small smile. "Can you believe it?" "No," he admitted. "But I'm glad it happened." Elaine and Taran arrived with warm drinks, their faces tired but joyful. "We did it," Taran said softly. Elaine nodded. "The whole planet did."